things don't look quite as good, but that flipped around. As a matter of fact, the Dow flipped into the green about midday yesterday. It seemed as if the NASDAQ just wanted to hold on to green throughout the day, but the movement was nothing close to what we've been used to. There's no doubt about that. The final 90 minutes actually sort of said it all as far as some of the shifting that we were seeing there. Pressure on. Matter of fact, the Dow finished actually in the red just slightly, down about 9 points, and the NASDAQ finished up just a little bit. So an interesting day. Biotech once again hitting new highs. We had a little bit of a sell-off there late after hitting those highs. Same thing with the semiconductors. Weren't at highs, but those sold off a little bit towards the end part of the day as well. But we've been tracking this for a while now, and certainly when we look at what's going on in the markets and this little bit of a disconnect here and there, it's been moving together a little bit more, and yet we still have these days where there is that disconnect where we see the NASDAQ moving to the upside. And matter of fact, today's an interesting day. But before we get to that, how about the volatility index? The volatility index continues to hold into the low 20s. Had another monster day yesterday of about 39 million contracts trading once again. So another really aggressive day, another day where Apple was not the leader in terms of the total volume trading. But nonetheless, Apple's always into that category. They're always somewhere in that top 3 or 4. There's no doubt about that. But a little bit of a shift there as well. So as we get into today, in the pre-market, things are looking pretty decent. Looks like everybody's focused on earnings. We had Coke, we had Under Armour, we had GM, we had Twitter, we had Lyft, we had all these various names. So it keeps on rolling, folks. The earnings just keep on rolling out. And that is something that I think we get lost in that sometimes because we get the financials, we get some of the big tech, and then everybody starts to yawn a little bit. We still have plenty of different names out there and some big names. Obviously, some Dow names, some S&P names, and obviously the NASDAQ names as well. So as we got into today, markets are looking just fine. Everything is just going smooth. We're up about 90 points, somewhere close to 100 points. By 9 a.m., we're Central Time, we're up about 100 points. We got, matter of fact, a nice run from the NASDAQ that sprinted actually after being up about 40, then 80, then 90, then 100. And then suddenly it looked like as if somebody pulled the rug out. And we had a pretty sharp move to the downside as we started to see a little bit of tumbling from names like Tesla and some of the big tech names started to pull, and that pull started to affect seriously on the NASDAQ. As a matter of fact, I'm doing a quick update right now, and I'm looking down about 83 right now on the NASDAQ and down about 75 on the Dow. Now, the Dow, it moves and shakes and moves around, but let's be honest, when you take a look at where the Dow is in terms of these numbers, and we talk about record numbers all the time and all these new highs. As a matter of fact, NASDAQ with that 14,000 level yesterday, but now it's dipped back below that level. But it's a 0.25% move today when we're looking over at the Dow. So is there a reason for any kind of panic? Absolutely not. But there always is those concerns that are out there, and certainly that's a factor. Energy was the leader early on. That's given some of that back, and we started to see financials take a little bit of a step to the upside. That's come back a little bit as well. When I say energy, we keep talking about how the price of crude has just continued to go up and up and up, and 58.5 seems to be the level most recently. We're looking at the VIX in the 20 to 21, call it maybe 22 category, so very low 20s. But I think the reality is you've got to look at what was really pushing early on was those beta names once again with Apache and Marathon Oil, and throw in Occidental, and obviously Chevron and Exxon also reacting very well. But those beta names, certainly they're reacting the most. We had a really nice pop out of Freeport-McMoRan early on. As a matter of fact, we had some call buying in there as well. So a wild ride already this morning after we had that big run to the upside and then this flip and completely flipping to the downside from what those gains were to the same thing on the negative side right now. So it's a pretty sharp move. Now, we did have strength early on. We had it from Twitter. We had it from Zoom. We had it from Walgreens and American Express, Coca-Cola, Disney. Those names all were the names that were outperforming at Twitter with some phenomenal numbers. It was a great opportunity. I have been very, very active, not buying today, but much more selling and selling quite a few different positions so far, but I did add on a couple as well. So let's jump into where we have some of the unusual option activity. We had about 15 different unusual options hitting already today before I came on, and I'm sure we're already adding to that as well, but I picked out a couple of them just because they're interesting and names that probably don't get covered very often. So Akerna Technology. It's in the health side of things, the technology side of things, and cannabis as well. So That's been a hot spot. We all know that. Everybody's been talking about Tilray and some of the other big names, and we've certainly seen some of those moves that have been very, very sharp to the upside. So this KERN, buyer of about 5,300 March 12.5 calls, going for somewhere between $1.20 and $1.80. So call it $1.50. Stock was trading at $9.50, and this is always important. Where was the stock? What sort of prices were they paying, and all the rest of that, just so you have a full understanding of the depth of where things were, because I know, especially in this market, things can change in a heartbeat, and certainly we just watched that before our very eyes in the last 10 or 15 minutes, that flip from being up, call it 100 points, to being down 75 points or thereabouts. Momo, another one, Chinese name. Stock, it's really been a really interesting name because this has hit on many occasions in the past as well. Stock was trading about $18.75, so just underneath 19. They're buying this Friday, so this is really short term, guys. This Friday's 20 strike calls, and they were only paying about 15 to up to about 35 cents for these, but nearly 8,000 of those trading in a pretty aggressive manner there as well. Now, we do got earnings coming out, but that's not this week. Those earnings are actually all the way out into March. So just have an understanding of that. And these do expire in just 3 days. So very, very short term. Folks, you got to have the understanding. You got to have the knowledge. Please educate yourself, whether it's reading books or reading up in whatever way, shape, or form that you want through the internet, whatever. But you have to understand the risks before you are a part of the derivatives markets, or obviously those experiences sometimes can be very brutal. And I just want you to always be very safe, be smart, always have discipline. That's the biggest thing that we talk about all the time. But you better have that knowledge first and then bring on the discipline later on as well when you start to implement some of that knowledge. I'm telling you, the derivatives market's on fire, continues to be on fire, and I will see you tomorrow on the take at 9:30 Central Time. Until then, have a great day of trading.